Hello. Let's have a conversation about controversial subject that comes up from time to time in the body of Yahusha, and that is when does the Shabbat begin? And so there's different practices going on with this. And of course, we're all trying to be in obedience to the fourth commandment. Remember Yom Shabath, guarded as Kadesh. And so there's a disagreement among the body members of when the day begins. I think the majority of people will say it's from evening to evening. So at the end of the sixth day, when evening arrives and three stars are seen in the Shemayim, then evening has arrived, and that begins Yom Shabath. And it goes on through the evening into the next day when the day breaks, and continues on through that day till evening, until the sun goes down and three major stars are seen in the Shemayim, and Yom Shabath ends. Now there's a minority, I would say, of people that believe that Yom Shabbat begins on the seventh day at daybreak, and it ends on the seventh day at sundown. So it only lasts through the daylight hours. And there's a couple more opinions that are really so far out there that they're not really even worth discussing or talking about, in my opinion. So we're just going to concentrate on those two. And what I can tell is that the biggest conflict or disagreement or quarreling on this subject comes from the misunderstanding of words written down in the scriptures. Now, I've done quite a bit of extensive study on this, and I will admit that I have been wishy-washy on this subject in the past, and I've flip-flopped between the two opinions. But for the last year or two, solidly, I have been observing Yom Shabbat from evening to evening. Okay, and this is where I felt the Ruach has enlightened me and directed me to being the truth. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And we don't have time to make a big long video on this subject here, but we do probably need to touch on it, because truly, the body of Yahusha is one, and we should be in agreement, and we should function as one body under one Mashiak, okay, and one head, and there should be no division within the body. Is it extremely important that we're all into agreement on that? Maybe not. Just depends. Depends on whether it becomes a problem or not. And obviously, I believe that if there's a disagreement in the body, that the two members that are in disagreement should come together and talk about it and see if they can come in agreement to what the majority of the body believes. You can't expect or you shouldn't expect, if you're outside the body, the majority of the body's opinion on interpretation of a subject, that the entire body is going to come over onto your side and agree with you. Chances are you're the one in error, and you need to come in and recounsel and understand why the entire body, or the majority of the body, is interpreting the scriptures the way they are and are in agreement to that. Okay? So you're important. I mean, body doesn't, if you're the toe, little toe of the body, we don't want to chop you off and run around without a little toe. All right? But you need to come into agreement and work together with the body. And the majority of the body there's a reason that Yahusha has revealed that interpretation to the majority of his body. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about people out there that don't have the Ruach in them, isn't part of the body. I mean, they'll come up with all kinds of crazy stuff. You ain't got to be in agreement with them. Of course not. I'm saying within the body of Yahusha, the remnant, you need to come in line, because a lot of people are, they've got a lot of insight through the Mashiak. They've been studying it, and they received their interpretation or their understanding, the edification of Scripture through the Ruach. And for some reason, if you're standing alone, or just a few of you are together against the rest of the body, that should right there should tell you, I think we're in error. I don't know why we're in error, so we need to go talk to somebody in the body and explain this to us, so we can get in sync with the rest of the body, not be working against the body. So it's important that we're in sync and that we agree. If you do not, then just secretly do not. Okay? Don't go broadcasting it and showing that the body is in disarray and quarreling among itself, and punching each other in the face. I mean, that's just like you beating yourself up. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous. So secretly, if you still can't understand it, then just secretly believe differently, and one day, someday, maybe Yahusha will change your mind and give you more insight, or perhaps he'll change the body's mind and they'll come in agreement with you. Okay? But yeah, I mean, don't cause divisions. Don't cut off the little toe, stuff like that. I mean, that's what's really most important. So have patience, long suffering, love, understanding, gentleness toward the body if you're in disagreement with something, and let Yahusha straighten it all out. And he will sooner or later. And I'll admit that sometimes on certain subjects that I'm in disagreement with the majority of the body. But sometimes I'll teach on it, and sometimes I'll just keep it to myself, because it's either that Yahuwah has given me that insight, okay, or I'm in error, because there's a lot of people believing otherwise. And sometimes he'll give certain people more insight than others for whatever reason. And like Brother Paul Sheol of Tarsus, who converted, he had a hard time with that. Okay, he wanted to go out and tell everybody everything that was revealed to him by the Mashiach, and he had to learn to keep some stuff to himself, because the body wasn't able to receive it, or it caused anger and resentment and jealousy and all kinds of other things to pop up. So he had to learn to not reveal everything that the Ruach had given him. He had to keep some of it to himself. And he struggled with that, and so we're going to struggle with it too. But it's something that we need to try to practice so that there's no apparent division within the body of Yahusha, okay? So, since this has come up quite a bit, the subject of when the Yom Shabath starts and ends, I just feel led by the Ruach to make a video on this. And I think that I'm probably will be in line with the majority of the body members, but I'm going to reveal some things that I think that maybe most people have never even thought about on this subject, which has been revealed to me through the Ruach and Mashiak. All right, so let's get to it and see what we can make heads or tails out of this according to Scripture and by the leading of the Ruach HaKodesh. So here we go. Nope, there's no other place to start with this conversation other than Genesis 1. All right, in the beginning, Yahuwah created the Shemayim and the Aretz. And the Aretz was formless and empty. And darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Ruach of Yahuwah, the breath, okay, or the breeze, okay, of Yahuwah was moving on the surface of the mayim, or waters. All right, let's stop right there and talk about that. So here we find out, in the beginning, he created the Shemayim, okay, the space, the expanse, okay, and the earth. All right? And the earth was formless and empty. So it was some kind of a mass that was formless and empty, wasn't it? But yet it was something. And darkness was on the face of the deep. So it was dark. So he created darkness first. Shemayim, the earth, and darkness was on the deep. See that? There was no governing lights. You got to understand this. It's plain. And then the Ruach of Yahuwah was moving on the surface of the mayim, the waters. So therefore, the Shemayim and the Aretz that was in total darkness, okay, at that when he started, had water in it. Could have been vapor form, ice form, liquid form. You know, that's the wonders of water. It can take on all three of those forms: solid, liquid, and gas. Okay, so it was there. So when he created the Shemayim and the Aretz, there was water present. It had to be, and it was all in darkness. There was no governing lights. See that? You have to come in agreement with that right there, right off the get-go, folks. He didn't create light first. Okay? He created darkness was present. There was no governing lights. It's plain as day. Now, people that I've noticed are in opposition to the majority of when the Yom Shabath starts likes to go to verse 4 and 5 here and stop. That's cherry picking. Okay, we've talked about cherry picking many times. It leads to division. That's why you have so many denominations running around out here in Christianity, because they start off with a little bit of truth or a verse, and they build on it. And by the time they build up on it, it's engulfed or totally saturated with falsehood and traditions. But they start off with a truth, which is usually a verse. In this case, it's verse 4 and 5 is where they stop. And they don't even like to go above that. They just go to those two verses and base everything on that. And the ones that like to promote that Yom Shabath starts in the evening and ends in the evening are the worst ones, to run to verse 4 and 5 and say, there's the proof. Okay? We got to read in context. We got to understand this. We have to come into agreement. The folks that are disagreeing with that, okay, are basing their opinion on different other verses, single verses. It's a cherry-picking battle, okay, just like Christianity does. We have to stop doing that, okay? So let's continue on. Starting in verse 3 there, it says, and Yahuwah said, let light come to be. And light came to be. And Yahuwah saw the light, that it was good. And Yahuwah separated the light from the darkness. And Yahuwah called the light day, or Yom, and the dark he called night, or Leah. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first Yom. Okay, or the first day, if you will. All right. Now, this becomes very, very interesting here. Because when he says, let light come to be, he's bringing light out of the darkness, isn't he? In other words, there had to be total darkness for him to have a need for light. The light had to come expose the darkness. So the darkness was first. You see what I'm saying? That's why there was a need to bring in the light. Now, here's the interesting part that some people may and may not have thought of. And that is, Yahuwah did not create the governing light to rule over the day and the night until the fourth day. So what light was this? Okay, you get me? On the fourth day, he created the governing lights. On the first day here, when he created light, it was not the sun, the moon, and the stars, because he didn't create them till the fourth day. Get it? So what did he do? What's going on here? Okay, well, what's going on here is Yahuwah was the light that separated the darkness. He was the light. See? Let there be light exposing the darkness. That light was Yahuwah. This is where a lot of people are getting mistaken. Don't believe it? We're going to continue on in context, and we're going to prove that. Stick with me, folks. It's going to get rough, because I'm not playing around with this. I've been through this myself over and over and over. Okay? But the fact is, this is day one, and created light to separate the day from the night. Okay? It was him who did that, because he's light. He came in and exposed the darkness. And up to that point, there was nothing but total darkness. All right? There was no governing lights. They weren't made till the fourth day. All right, let's continue on here. And Yahuwah said, let space, or the expanse, or the Shemayim, the universe, okay, come to be in the midst of the water, or Mayim. Let space come to be in the midst of the Mayim, and let it separate the Mayim from the Mayim. And Yahuwah made space and separated the Mayim which were under the space from the mayim which were above the space, and it was so. And Yahuwah called the space Shemayim. See that? Called it the Shemayim. All right. And there was evening and there was morning the second Yom. He still ain't done nothing with the governing lights, has he? He has just separated the waters. We know there was waters because it told us there was. In the beginning, he created the Shemayim and the earth, and it was formless and empty and darkness. Total darkness, man, was there. That's what happened first. And then his Ruach, his breath, moved across the surface of the water. So we know that within that Shemayim, in the earth, that was in total darkness, which was formless and empty, was water. So he must have created everything out of water. Water must have been the core of creation. You know, the foundation of creation must have been water. Everything must have come out of water. And he separated the waters to form everything and to shape it. See what I'm saying? So anyway, we won't go into that. I want to keep this video as short as possible. So from that point, let's just go down to day 4. All right, let's go check out day 4. Well, it starts in verse 14. Verse 14, Genesis 1:14. And Yahuwah said, "Let lights come to be in the space of the Shemayim," which he just made in day 2, right? "To separate the day from the night." Huh? So here, "and let them be the signs and appointed times, and for days and years. And let them be the lights in the space of the Shemayim to give light on the earth. And it came to be so." All right. So notice here, up here in the first day, when he said, "And light came to be," let light come to be, and light came to be, and saw that the light was good. And Yahuwah separated the light from the darkness. See that? Now down here, he just said, "Let lights come to be in the space of the Shemayim," which he made on the second day, "to separate the day from the night, and let them be signs in appointed times and for days and years." So he just said the same thing. So what happened there? What he's doing now, and you got and hear this in the spirit. What he's doing now on day 4 is he's making his replacements to give the light to his creation. His substitute teachers, if you will, the governors. He's putting governors in place in order to control the light, to shed the light, because he's, right before that, he's the one shedding light on his creation in the darkness. Now all of a sudden, he's making his replacements. He's going to give the governing bodies of light to provide the light to his creation. So that's his replacements to provide the light onto the earth for his creatures. See that? See what I'm saying? So let's go with it now. And it's appointed times, and he's going to make them for signs, okay, for signs and appointed times. In other words, you can keep track of time through these lights he's going to create, and for days, to track days, to count days. Therefore, to count the days, man, and the years, and to keep track of years. "And let them be for lights in the space of the Shemayim to give light on the earth." And it came to be. And Yahuwah made two great lights. Say that. He made two great lights. The greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and also the stars. And Yahuwah set them in the space of the Shemayim to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the fourth day. This is power-packed, folks. Okay, let's get a handle on what this just told us. All right, Yahuwah made two great lights. Okay, two great lights. The greater light, which is the sun, to rule the day. Okay, doesn't say days, yamam, it says day. And the lesser light, which we know is the moon, to rule the night. And also the stars. So the moon and the stars are ruling the night. And Elohim set them in the space of the Shemayim to give light on the earth. To do what? To give light onto the earth. There's always light. There's never any darkness. There's no darkness. They're both light. It's a greater light and a lesser light. But nevertheless, it's light. Okay? It's light. It's not darkness. It's light. It's a lesser light, but it's light. Even through what we call nighttime. Okay? Greater light and a lesser light. The whole period of time they're involved that makes up that day is light. All right? And to rule over the day and over the night. See? To rule over the day and the night. It's a cycle. It's a one cycle, which makes up the day, the full day. It's ruled by the light, by the greater light and the lesser light. There's no point of darkness at all. And to separate, now listen to this. This is where people, I think, get off track. And to separate the light from the darkness. All right. That's not saying to separate the light daytime from the nighttime. It's saying the light from the darkness. What darkness? Because nighttime is not dark. That's not darkness. It has a lesser light in it. It's light. It's considered the Yom, the full cycle. You see that? The greater light and the lesser light creates the Yom, the full cycle, this 24-hour period, if you will. Okay? So what are he talking about here when he said the light to separate, made it to separate those two great lights, okay, great governors, if you will, of light, to separate the light from the darkness. He made the one to rule over the day, the other to rule over the night, but he made them both together to separate the light, because they're both light. They're greater light and lesser light from the darkness. What darkness? The outer darkness, the abyss, the outer darkness, where the demons were afraid to go to and requested to be thrown into a herd of swine or pigs and go over a cliff, rather than to be thrown out into the outer darkness, the abyss, where there is no light at all. That's the light and the separation of the light, which is day, which is the greater light and the lesser light, from the outer darkness, where there is no light at all. It's total darkness, the outer darkness, the abyss, where the demons did not even want to go. You see that? I hope you do, because I think that's where most people get mixed up. That's the error right there. And Yahuwah saw that it was good. So he just said that he saw the greater light and the lesser light ruling over the daytime and the nighttime, which makes up the Yom, and it's good. He said it was good. A lot of these people, and they say, oh, he didn't say that the darkness was good, the nighttime was good. He did. He just said it. He just said it. So stop saying he didn't. He just said it. And Yahuwah saw that it was good, the greater light and the lesser light, to rule over the day and the nighttime. That's your full cycle right there. That's why there's two lights. And the stars help out the moon to do it. See that? The darkness that separate the light from the darkness is the outer darkness from the two lights that make up the full cycle of the Yom, the day and the night cycle. Okay, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the fourth day. All right, so that was the fourth day. So, I hope the deck came across kind of understandable, okay? Now, let's go over to, turn our attention to Genesis 15. Okay, Genesis 15. And this is Yahuwah. The scene unfolds with Yahuwah speaking with his servant Abraham, and he's going to make a land covenant with him, a blood covenant with Abraham. Okay, so we're going to pick that up over here. You can read all these chapters in context, folks, and study it yourself, and it's the best way to do it. I obviously don't have the time, so we're going to go pick it up, chapter 15 over to verse 15, and we're going to pick it up there. Now, this is Yahuwah speaking to Abraham now. Now, as for you, you are to go to your fathers in peace. You are to be buried at a good old age. And he's telling him that he's going to die and be buried in peace. He's going to live a long time. Then, in the fourth generation, they shall return here. Where? To the promised land. For the crookedness of the Amorites is not yet complete. And it came to be, when the sun went down. Now, does the sun go down and the sun rise up? No. This is just this is figures of speech, or speech that we are acquainted with. Okay? In other words, if you say, if you ask me how many days are in a week, Mark, I'm going to say 7. Okay, and you're going to understand that that's including each 24-hour period for each day. If you say how many days are in a week, Mark, and I say, well, there's 7 days and 7 nights, that would be correct too. But we don't talk that way. That ain't how we talk. You're fully capable of understanding when I say there's 7 days in a week, that includes the lesser light period. That's the lesser light rules over. That makes that complete cycle. You're very capable of knowing that when I say there's 7 days in a week. I'm not leaving out the nighttime. It's the light too. It's just the lesser light. You see that? So quit taking that out of context. You know what they're talking about. You know exactly what this is saying. And it came to be when the sun went down and it was dark. So here we go. It's dark, evening came, the greater light is gone, and the lesser light is now ruling to finish off that period. A smoking oven and a burning torch passing between those pieces. That's a metaphor, and I'm not going to get into that because that's not what this is about. On the same Yom. See that? On the same Yom. So it came to be when the sun went down, it was dark. And on the same Yom. Because the dark is still the same Yom as the daylight was. It's just ruled by the lesser light through the nighttime watch. Get it? It's still the same Yom to make up that complete cycle that was given to us. That's why he gave us the lights, remember? To rule over the days, to rule over the Yamim, okay? The greater and the lesser light to rule over the Yamim and the years. All right, so it's obvious. And on the same Yom that's going into the rule of the lesser light, Yahuwah made a covenant with Abraham, saying, I have given this land to your seed from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates. So there you go. Yahuwah came down in the evening, and when it got dark, on the same Yom, just ruled by the lesser light, the half that's ruled by the lesser light, okay, and made a land covenant with Abraham, so he was working during the nighttime watch. He's still light there. He wasn't in darkness. The lesser light was there that he put there. The moon and the stars to rule over the nighttime. He didn't leave us in total darkness, folks. It's not total darkness. It's not the outer darkness. It's not the abyss. It's not Sheol. Okay? It is the still day. It's still the Yamim. He left light there for us. It's not, we're not left in darkness by any stretch of the imagination. Matter of fact, on a full moon, when the moon's full, you go outside in that field and go fishing or hunting or do whatever in the woods or those fields under a full moon, I can see just about as good as I can see in the evening or in the morning before the rise of the sun. You know? It's bright out there, man. It's bright out there when there's a full moon. So he didn't leave us in darkness. Ain't nothing wrong with the lesser light rain that's coming around that finishing the Yom. That whole period cycle is the Yom. You can't cut it in half and say, well, we're just going to recognize the greater light's reign. Huh? Yahuwah said he made two great lights. He called them great lights to rule over the day hours of the Yom and over the nighttime hours of that same Yom. If you don't believe me, next time full moon comes out, you go on out there about midnight and see how good you can walk around and see stuff. It's almost like it's daytime. So, Genesis 15 through 18 there. And now let's compare that to Acts 27, verses 27 and 33. So let's just jump over here real quick to Acts. Okay? Go over to Acts 27 and verse 27 through 33. Now, some people are obviously confused about when the day begins here, man. That's, I think, the big issue is when it begins. So this text that we're about to read talks about the 14th Yom of a month. The 14th Yom. Okay. And the 14th night came, okay, or the dark, the nighttime came, the Leah. But the next morning, it is still going to be the 14th. Meaning that days begin at sunset, not midnight or sunrise. Now, I know that's got everybody squirming. that believes differently. But you're going to have to stick with me here and read this, and keep your eyes open and stay and connected to the Ruach. Listen to the Ruach speak here, folks. These are the living words. What's that mean? Anything that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah is life. He's the life giver. He's the light of men. Listen to the Ruach speak, folks. This ain't me talking now. When I start reading, it's the Ruach speaking to you, who is truth. Okay? Listen to the Ruach. Start in verse 27. And when the 14th night, or Leah, 14th night, okay, 14th night came, as we were driving up and down in the Adriatic Sea. Here Paul is on a boat. About midnight, so around midnight, the sailors suspected that they were drawing near to some land. So taking soundings, they found it to be 20 fathoms. Soundings is depth of the water before it hits ground. And a little farther on, they took soundings again and found it to be 15 fathoms. And fearing lest we should run aground on the rocks, they dropped 4 anchors from the stern and were praying for daylight to come. They're praying for daylight to come. This is happening around midnight. And it's the 14th. Okay. But when the sailors were seeking to escape from the ship, when they had let down the boat into the sea, under pretense of going to cast out anchors from the prow, so they're getting ready to get on their, their survival boats, their little rowboats. They're trying to get on there and get out of there. They're freaking out. Paul said to the captain and the soldiers, if these do not remain in the ship, it is impossible for you to be delivered. So if they leave, it's going to cause you to perish too, is what he's saying. You better keep them on this ship, is what Paul's telling them. Then the soldiers did cut the ropes of the boat and let it fall off. So when the soldiers heard what Paul said, that if you let them sailors leave, y'all going to perish because you need them on this boat to survive. Paul knew what was coming. He had been given the insight by the Ruach. He saw what was coming, all right? So the soldiers, they said, Paul said if we let them guys go on those safety boats to shore, we're all going to perish. So they went and cut the ropes and let the little boats fall down into the water so those sailors couldn't get off the ship. That's what's going on. And this is all happening on the 14th night. Okay? And when day came, and when Yom was about to come, or daybreak, okay, Paul urged them all to take food, saying, the 14th day, or the 14th Yom, is today. Is today. It's still nighttime when he's saying this now. It says when the day was about to come. The 14th day is today. And you have continued without food and eaten none at all. So what this is plainly telling us is the 14th started in the evening. They were on the boat. They anchored at 15 fathoms. They tried to escape. They were scared to death. They wanted to get the little lifeboats down and take off and find the shoreway. Paul told the captain and the soldiers, if you let those guys go, we're going to perish. So they cut the rope so they couldn't. And then right before daybreak, Paul tells them the 14th day is today. So as soon as it breaks daylight today, it's still the 14th. Okay? You can't deny it. The 14th Yom is today, and you have continued without food. So let's look at it. 27. And when the 14th night came, as we were driven up and down in the Adriatic Sea, about midnight. Okay? So it's about midnight. It's the 14th night. All right? And then here, the 14th day, or Yom, is today. And you have continued without food. And when day was about to come, the sun was going to rise, Paul urged them all to take food, saying, the 14th day is today, and you have continued without food and eaten none at all. That's saying that the 14th day started at night, in the evening, through midnight, and then on until the morning, the daybreak, sunrise. Today's the 14th. It's still the 14th all day long until evening comes again, and that starts the 15th. It's plain as day. You can read this all day long, and you cannot twist this and spin this in any direction, unless you're going to lie and just deny the Ruach. This is plain. This is clear. There's no way to spin this. It's it. Okay? It's it. The day starts in the evening. There's no place else in Scripture where you can go and get such a plain description or outline of what a Yom is. It starts in the evening, the Yom, because darkness was first. Was it not? Yes, it was. He didn't create the two great lights until the fourth day. Come on now. YAHUAH was the light on the first day when he said, let there be light. He came in there and illuminated the creation because he is light. And we're going to see that same exact example of YAHUAH being light when we go to Revelations. Okay? So you can't deny this. It starts at night, at evening. It goes on through the midnight, on into the daybreak, into the morning, at sunrise, and it goes on through the day. This is the Yom I'm speaking of, and it completes its cycle when the next evening comes. Okay? We count this as a 24-hour period, whether you like it or not. If we didn't, if we got rid of the lesser light, that half of the Yom that's in nighttime, that's ruled by the lesser light, if we actually got rid of that, so we don't count that because that's darkness, which it's not darkness at all. It's just the lesser light. He called it a great light. Two great lights. He didn't say there was one great light. He said there's two. Well, if you don't count that, and you start telling people, well, we don't count the darkness because there's no darkness in YAHUAH. Well, first of all, it's not darkness. There's light in it. It's a great light, matter of fact. And second of all, if you do that, then if you're a 70-year-old man, then you're really only 35 years old, according to your count. If you're not going to count the complete cycle of the Yom, you're going to cut it in half and only count half of the Yom, then you're only 35 years old, according to what you're saying. So it can't be. Common sense says you're in error. It don't make any sense at all. And here's another thing. Okay? Here's another thing. Well, let's just go on. I'll get into that later. I don't want to jump ahead. Let's just go ahead here. Okay, so Leviticus. Okay, just go over here to Leviticus 23, 27. 23:27. On the 10th Yom of this 7th month is the Yom of Atonement. It shall be a Kadesh Mikra for you, and you shall afflict your beans, and shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. And you do no work on that same Yom, For it is the Yom of atonement, to make atonement for you before Yahuwah your Elohim. For any being who is not afflicted on that same day, or Yom, he shall be cut off from his people. And any being who does any work on that same Yom, that being I shall destroy from the midst of his people. You do no work, a law forever, throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It is a Shabbat of rest to you. And you shall afflict your beans on the 9th Yom on the month of the month at evening. From evening to evening you observe your Shabbat. Now people love to twist this up, man. They say, oh, it says it's on the 10th, but it's the 9th, and or 9th, or now it's the 10th. You know, and they start spinning and twisting and squirming in order to try to make that mean something it doesn't mean. And what this is plainly saying is that the 10th Yom, okay, starts in the evening, okay, and it goes from evening to evening. And he's not just saying, oh, this is just for one particular day of the year. So the rest of the years he's chopping the Yom in half, and we're only observing or counting, tracking time through the great light that rules over the daytime and the great light that rules over the nighttime. We ain't going to count you. We don't like you because you're darker than the greater light. What are you doing? Worshiping the sun? Are you worshiping the sun? That's what I'm asking you. Are you worshiping the sun, the great light that rules over the day, and you don't care anything about the nighttime, which is part of the Yom? Are you separating day and night because you worship the sun? I don't know, man. It's pretty plain to me. I don't see where you can get anything else out of it myself. I really do not. Let's go to Psalms 139. Psalms 139. For there is not a word on my tongue, but see, O Yahuwah, you know it all. You have closed me in, behind and before, and laid your hand upon me. Knowledge too wondrous for me. It is high. I am unable to reach it. Where would I go from your Ruach? Or where would I flee from your face? If I go up into the Shemayim, you are there. If I make my bed in the grave, see, you are there. I take the wings of the morning, I dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea. There too your hand would lead me, and your right hand hold me. If I say, darkness shall cover me, then nighttime would be light to me. Even darkness is not dark for you. So even the outer darkness and the abyss is not darkness for Yahuwah. Why? Because he's light, no matter where he goes. But night shines as the day. See that? The night shines as the day. As is darkness, so is light. Come on, people. Read that yourself 1,000,000 times. But night shines as the day, as is darkness, so is light. Why? Because there's light. There's a great light in the darkness. Yahuwah is light, man. He's there. He just made the two great lights to take his place and put light upon the earth in the total Yom cycle of the whole Yom. Okay? The daylight and the night light. Okay? It's still got light in it, doesn't it? Come on now. As is darkness, so is light. For you possessed my innards. You have covered me in my mother's womb. I give thanks to you, for I am awesomely and wondrously made. Wondrous are your works, and my being knows it well. My bones was not concealed from you when I was shaped in a hidden place, knit together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. Wow. That's in Psalms. Read Psalms 139 carefully. John, Yahuchanan, chapter 11, verse 8. The Talmudim said to him, Rabbi, the Yehudim were but now seeking to stone you, and you going back? Are you going back there? And Yahusha answered, Are there not 12 hours in the Yom? If anyone walks in the Yom, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the nighttime, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. He said this, and after that he said to them, Our friend Eleazar has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up. Now, what's he saying here? Is he saying that the Yom only consists of half the time period? No, he ain't saying that at all. Why? Because on the nighttime, most everybody sleeps. Most everybody. And they say Eleazar has fallen asleep, and we know that he had died. That means he's dead, right? But to Yahuwah, he's just sleeping, right? He's not dead yet. He hasn't cast anybody into the lake of fire yet. So to him, he's just sleeping. So what this is a figure of speech that Yahusha is saying here. It's like me, first of all, here where I'm at in Texas, we have somewhere around 9.5 to 10 hours of daylight right now. You know, and there's lesser hours of daylight in a lot of places. Alaska has a month or 6 months of darkness. Okay? Does that mean that they're living in darkness and Yahuwah's not up there? Of course not. It's just ruled that 6 months of darkness is being ruled by the greater light, which is the lesser light, the moon and the stars. That's all. There's still light up there. So what's he saying here? It's a figure of speech. It's like we're working together, and we went out there at nighttime, and we got on our job location, and the sun came up, and we started working. Say we're building a house. And then it gets down to about, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're wanting to go home. Okay? You say, man, let's get out of here, man. We've been here all day. And I say, oh, no, man. There's still 3 or 4 hours of daylight left, man. Let's stay here and work. We got to get this job done. See? So that's what he's saying. There's more daylight here for us to work. Let's not stop until the daylight hours are gone and nighttime comes, and then we'll go eat and lay down and go to sleep and rest and regenerate our bodies. Get up in the morning, get back with it again. So he's saying, while you got the daylight hours to work, keep working on your job. Don't stop until nighttime comes in. You can stop and go home and eat and sleep. It's a figure of speech, folks. All right, well, I'm going to stop right here, take a break, and we'll be back and we'll wrap this up. Hello, I'm back. All righty. John 20. Let's pick up real quick here. John 20. where we left off. John 20. Actually, verse 19. John 20, verse 19. All right. When therefore it was evening, when it was evening on that day, the first day of the week, and when the doors were shut where the pupils met for fear of the Yehudim, Yahusha came and stood in the midst and said to them, peace to you. This is another verse that people like to use to say that it proves that the evening is part of the prior daylight hours. Okay. And the reason they do that is because how it's kind of chopped up there. But if you really listen to the Ruach, okay, you'll understand what's really being said here. Don't forget, they talked different than we did. Okay, there is a language barrier, and not only a language barrier, but customs, traditions, the culture, everything was different, and so they understood things totally different than we did. But the language there's a great language barrier there. All right, so you got to kind of really concentrate in order to figure out what's being said here, and try not to use the American mindset in our language to define the Hebrew. Even though it's translated into English, it's still got different meanings because it's a different culture, different customs, traditions, everything, So anyway, you start at verse 19, where it says, when therefore it was evening, so it was evening on that day, what day? The first day of the week. There's a comma there. So that evening, when it says it was evening on that day, it's basically saying, and then it answers what day it is. What day? The first day of the week. You see that? So in other words, what has happened here is Yahusha waited for Yom Shabath to be over. He's coming at nighttime here, folks. So when you say that YAHUAH doesn't work at night, that's not true. The night's still daytime. It's still got light in it. It's just the lesser light. It's a great light that rules the nighttime, because you're made to go to sleep and regenerate during the second part of the Yom. Okay, that's what it was there for, basically, for you to regenerate. If you don't sleep, you'll die. Eventually, you're going to pass out and sleep whether you want to or not. And it don't matter if it's going to be during the greater light or the lesser light, you're still going to go to sleep. I guarantee you that. You're going to pass out and you probably sleep for days. Anyway, when it was evening on that day, okay, Yahusha came when it became evening. So why? Why in the evening did he show up? Because he was waiting for Yom Shabath to be over. And that's what it says, the first day of the week, the first Yom of the week. So that's when it became evening, it started the first day. The seventh day was over, and that's what Yahusha waited on. As soon as Yom Shabath was over, he shows up. He comes through walls, passed through the walls, and materialized himself, revealed himself to them. They were locked up tight. They were afraid that the Yehudim were going to get them and kill them for using the true name and spreading the Pastor of Yahusha. So at nighttime, they said, oh man, they come at night. They like to come in the middle of the night and get you when you're asleep. So they were locked up tight, man, in fear of the Yehudim. Okay? So Yahusha shows up after the seventh day ended in the evening. When therefore it was evening on that day, the beginning of a new day, basically. What day? The first day of the week. Yom Shabath was over. And when the doors were shut up where the pupils met for fear of the Yehudim, Yahusha came and stood in the midst and said to them, peace to you. So he's standing there at nighttime on the first day. Says it, on the first day of the week is when he showed up at nighttime in the evening on that day, that same day, and stood among them and said, peace to you. Walked through the walls. That's what that's saying. People like to twist that and make it say something else. That's wickedness. Don't do that. Don't try to make it say something it's not saying to support your error. Okay? Because you've bought into someone's theory, hook, line, and sinker, doesn't mean you get to twist scriptures and cherry pick in order to try to make it mean to support your mistaken error. Stick with the truth, man. Quit trying to prove your error right by cherry picking and twisting the scriptures. That's what you're doing. And having said this, he showed them his hands and his side. The pupils therefore rejoiced when they saw the master. So they didn't even realize it was him till he showed them his hands and his side, even though he just walked through the walls, materialized in their midst. Then Yahusha said to them again, peace to you. So they didn't know who he was, so they had to re-greet him once they realized who he was. As the Father has sent me, I also send you. And having said this, he breathed on them and said to them, receive the Kodesh Ruach. If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. If you retain the sins of any, they have been retained. Wow. So, there we go. It's in the middle of the night. He gives them the Ruach. He breathes on them and says, receive the Ruach HaKodesh in you. Okay? And now, they have the authority to forgive sins or retain sins to people. What? Only Yahuwah can do that. How is that? How are they able to do that? And how did this happen? This happened here before Pentecost, when the 120 were in the upper chamber. Did it not? Yes, it did. They received the Ruach HaKodesh. He breathed on them and gave them the power or the authority, empowered them, gave them the authority to forgive sins. How can that be? Because the Ruach is Yahusha indwelling them. And Yahusha in them, he's the one that's forgiven the sins and retaining the sins. They're doing it through the Ruach, not through the flesh. They're doing it through the Ruach HaKodesh, who he just got in them when he breathed on them and commanded them to receive the Ruach. You see that? And this all happened at night on the first day of the week, which started at evening. Read it yourself. You don't believe what I'm saying to you. Let it sink in, because I'm speaking truth through the Ruach to you. All right. So let's take a look and let's compare something here. Let's compare Genesis 1:1, okay, to Revelations verse 21, 23 through 27. All right, so let's take a look at it. In the beginning, Yahuwah created the Shemayim and the earth. And the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Ruach of Elohim was moving on the surface of the water. And Yahuwah said, let light come to be. and light came to be. And Yahuwah saw the light that it was good, and Yahuwah separated the light from the darkness. Yahuwah separated the light from the darkness. Why? Because he was the light. His presence separated the light from the darkness, because he didn't create the two great lights to rule over day and one rule over night until the fourth day. And Elohim called the light Yom, and the dark he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. Evening, because it began out in darkness. Okay? Morning, because he illuminated it with his presence. He was the light that separated the darkness. Don't believe it? Let's go over to Revelations 21, verse 23. It says, and the city had no need of the sun, nor the moon, to shine in it, for the esteem of Yahuwah lighted it, and the Lamb is its lamp. And the nations of those who are delivered shall walk in its light. What's its light? Yahuwah. And the sovereigns of the earth bring their esteem into it, and its gates shall not be shut at all by day, for night shall not be there. And they shall bring the esteem and the appreciation to the nations into it, and there shall by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone do an abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's scroll of life. So here we find out that when the New Jerusalem comes down and we're in eternity, living in eternity in our mortal bodies, the two governors, the two great lights that he put in place to do what he did in the beginning, shine the light on the earth, and it's no longer necessary again. It's going to go back to when he first created it, and he was the light that separated the darkness. He's going to go back to doing that. He's going to be the light. Okay? We're children of the light. He's the father of lights. See that? So he's going to take the substitutes and say, your job's over, get rid of them, and he's going to be the light for the darkness and the night, the full yom, the full years for eternity. Okay? Apparently, if you really think about that, I don't think we're going to be required to sleep. We're going to have immortal bodies, so why would we have to sleep and regenerate? I don't think we're going to have to. That's why he's going to eliminate the night light, that he gave us in order for we can lay down and sleep under the rule of the lesser light. See what I'm saying? The reign of the lesser light. Because nighttime is not darkness. It's not the outer darkness. It's not the abyss. It's not Sheol. There's light in it. That's total darkness. The abyss, the outer darkness, Sheol, that's total darkness. Ain't no light in it unless Yahuwah comes there, and then it'll light up because he's light. He's the father of lights. You see that? It's pretty plain, folks, man. I mean, let's look at here. Go to John 1. John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Yahuwah, and the Word was Yahuwah. He was in the beginning with Yahuwah. All came to be through him, and without him not even one came to be that came to be. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from Elohim, whose name was Yahuchanan. This one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not that light, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light, which enlightens every man coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. He's the light. He's the light, man, of the world. I'm seeing that now. He was the light in the beginning, in the first day, second day, and the third day. He was the only light that separated the darkness. And then on the fourth day, he made two great lights to rule over the Yom, the full cycle of the Yom. Okay? That's what it's saying, man. All right, so thank you for watching. I hope with all my heart that this clears up any dispute between the body. If you're in agreement with me in the majority of the body of Yahusha, then that's fantastic, because we're one. There's not supposed to be any division or quarrel among us. If you're still not in agreement and you're still saying, I don't care what that old kook says, this boss starts at daytime. If you're still saying that, keep it to yourself. You don't have to go around telling everybody and aggravating people who's already received the truth from the Ruach, have done a lot of studying, and is in agreement with the body. What are you trying to achieve by exposing your disagreement with the main body, the majority of the body? Are you trying to cause divisions? Because you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to divide the body, man. I wouldn't even talk to them publicly or privately if you still dispute this. You know why? Because all you're going to do is anger the body, ruffle the feathers, and when you poke the part of the body, somebody in the body, if they're the mouth or the eye or the nose, if you poke them, you're going to wake up the whole body. If somebody comes up and smacks me upside my head, my whole body goes on alert. You see? And all of a sudden you got the whole body alert and ready to pounce, So just keep it to yourself and pray for more insight. Pray for edification of the word. Pray that he opens up your mind to the scriptures so you can understand the scriptures, man. That's the only thing you can really do. Because first thing you have to do is admit to yourself this right here. Wow, why is everybody else saying that it's from evening to evening, and I'm listening to this guy over here who's made this theology, that he's got this ideology floating around on the internet, and it's against the body. Why am I siding with him? I should not be siding with the body. See, because the body is the what? The body of Yahusha, right? He is the vine, we are the branches. What does that mean? That means we're an extension of Yahusha. Our teaching is from Yahusha, through us. When we read scripture, we are prophesying Yahusha. We're giving the testimony of Yahusha. And that's it. That's the Ruach speaking to us, man. We read scripture. That's it. So keep it to yourself. Stay engrafted into Israel. Stay in sync and one with the body, under the one rabbi, under the head, Yahusha, and pray for more edification and truth on this matter. Okay? And if you never, ever get the insight, at least do what the body's doing. Don't go off on your own and do what you think that you believe or somebody else is doing. Stick with the body. You can't go wrong. The body is Yahusha's body. If you go off against the body, you're going off on your own accord, according to your own understanding. And you can't do that. You can't go off on your own understanding. That leads to death. Stick with the body. Stay in the Ruach. Okay? So thank you for watching. I hope this helps the body to come into unity as one And remember to stay in love with Yahusha. Bonus feature time. When Scripture speaks of darkness, it is usually speaking of the evil path or unrighteous ones. Someone who is not in the light of or following truth. They're in the darkness, you know. When it speaks of light, it is usually speaking about the righteous path or understanding truth or the Torah, being in the Torah, right? They're in the light. I'm not really receiving this teaching that that the Sabbath goes from Yom Shabath starts in the morning and ends at the end of the day teaching, because we only have half days. In that case, we'd only have half days consisting of strictly light, and the other half of the Yom or nighttime is total darkness, and it would be disregarded or ignored or not counted in the full cycle of the Earth's orbit as observed time. So this is a little hard to believe. Common sense says, no way can this be true. If this was true, we would only be half the age that we are. It may be true that Yahuwah never specifically called night or total darkness good, speaking of the outer darkness, the abyss or Sheol, but Yahuwah did say that he made or created nighttime or darkness and evil in Isaiah 45:7. He did say that. I don't know, maybe all this darkness and nighttime talk is mostly figures of speech. Like they know from the rising of the sun to its setting that there is none but me. Obviously, we know the sun doesn't rise or set, but Scripture uses that figure of speech. In my research, which I admit is limited at this point in my life anyway, I am really convinced through the Ruach that all this half count segments, day and night separation type stuff, and the flat earth theories are all based on a play of words and making them mean what we want them to mean, but mostly they are based on language barriers that center around homonyms. Although I will admit that I have pondered over Isaiah 5:20 quite a bit, but my conclusion to Isaiah 5:20 is that most of it is figures of speech. They're idioms that mean the same thing. Different idioms that mean the same thing, have the same message, as far as I can tell. Read it yourself and see what you think. Isaiah 5:20. And then there's Psalms 139 that we just read through. That's very interesting as well. So obviously, most people have a good understanding that the 24-hour cycle came from the Egyptians, who basically split the day into 12 hours and night into 12 hours. But the 60 minutes in an hour and the 60 seconds in a minute came from the Babylonians. Although many cultures do have their own calendars, I don't think there is more than one system for recording time or tracking time being used on the planet. While our units for measuring time seem to be here to stay, the way we measure time has changed significantly over the centuries. The ancient Egyptians used sundials and water clocks, as did several civilizations after them. Hourglasses were also an important timekeeping device before the invention of mechanical and pendulum clocks. The development of modern quartz watches and atomic clocks has enabled us to measure time with increasing accuracy. Today, the standard definition for time is no longer based on the 24-hour rotation of the Earth on its axis, or the rotation of the Earth around the Sun, but on atomic time. The second is defined as 9,192,631,770 periods of the radiation corresponding to the transition between the two hyperfine levels of the ground state of the calcium 133 atom. Finally, I believe the Yom Shabath is from evening to evening. And not only Yom Shabath, but the other 6 days, or Yoms. Because they wanted to take the body of Yahusha down and bury him before the high Shabbat came, where Passover started, as the sun went down and 3 stars appeared in the sky. And the Mashiach himself said he would be in the tomb 3 days and 3 nights. If we count the 12 hours of daylight and ignore the 12 hours of nighttime, he was still in the tomb 3 days and 3 nights. He wasn't in there 3 days and 6 nights, or whatever you want to say, 6 days and 6 nights. You can't split that all up. What's the difference if we say 3 days and 3 nights, or 3 days and 3 watches? It means the same thing. Or 3 days that exist of a 24-hour period. Okay? The Yom consists of 24-hour segments, 1-hour segments. Because it's not darkness. Even nighttime has light in it. It's just a lesser light. But it is a great light, and Yahusha called it good. If we really think about it, what is nighttime anyway? Think about nighttime. It's a period of lesser light, or a void, or is it a void? Is it total darkness? Is it the abyss? Is it Sheol? Is it outer darkness? Void from any light at all? No. It's just a period of lesser light that is controlled by a great light, which is the moon and the stars together. People still stood guard on the night watch, okay? And the high priest, or the priests in the temple, still did their priestly duties at night as well, okay? Because there was still light. They weren't walking in total darkness. Abraham fought wars at night, and the Magi traveled at night so they could follow the star to the baby, or to the child Mashiach, King of the Jews. All right? So stuff doesn't just stop because of nighttime. It's still a great light. It's what YAHUAH called it. Besides, YAHUAH said he made the sun, the moon, and the stars to be for signs and appointed times and for days and for years. So he made the sun and the moon for days. That means it completes the Yom cycle. Okay, and for years, and signs, appointed times, meaning so that we can track it, record it, so we can observe it correctly at the appointed times of Yahuwah. It also says Yahuwah set them in the Shemayim to give light on the earth and to rule over the day, the greater light to rule over the day, and the lesser light to rule over the night. And to separate, and for those two great lights to separate the day from the night. And Yahuwah saw that it was good. In other words, there's a lesser light at night, it's given by the moon and the stars. It is not total darkness, folks, or the abyss, or the outer darkness, or Sheol. It's not evil. Yahuwah called it good after he created it. Read it. He called it good. It's not evil or wickedness or Satan or any of that kind of stuff. It's Yahuwah's creation, and he called it good. Have you ever noticed how the lunar cycle represents the life of an Israelite or a believer or a Hebrew? Well, there's a tradition or a fable in the Hebrew culture that speaks of this. And it goes like this. When it's the new moon, and it is in its darkest phase. The new moon is in its darkest phase. It's when it's a total dark disk hanging in the Shemayim, right? This phase of the moon, or the lunar cycle, represents us when we're the farthest away from truth, or Yahuwah, or farthest away from the light. And when the moon is in its brightest phase, lunar phase, it represents us when we are the closest to truth, or to Yahuwah. So anyways, I just think this ideology of when the Sabbath starts and should only be observed in the daylight hours in the daytime is an overstretch. Okay? And people are making too much out of nothing. All right? They're trying to say that Yahuwah is only in the daytime and he's not in the nighttime, and that makes no sense at all based on what we just studied together. That is what the Ruach has instructed us at this point through his scriptures to understand. And so I remain led by the Ruach, not men. We ought to obey Yahuwah, not men. And we should believe and teach out of the living word. And Yahusha is our foundation. Everything we do has to be built on Yahusha. Okay? Not men. Not ideology or theology or religions or traditions. Yahusha is our foundation. The Ruach leads us to all truth. Follow the Ruach. Pray for edification, truth, and understanding of the scriptures. Pray that Yahuwah opens up the scriptures and gives us understanding. That's what we need to pray about. All right. Shalom, beloved of Yahuwah. And remember, stay in love with Yahusha. along, Nazarene, beloved of Yahuwah.
Yahusha, living water, Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living water, Baruch haba Bashem Yahuwah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my Yah. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha, living Torah, Baruch haba Bashem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living Torah, Baruch haba Bashem Yahuwah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my Yah. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha, living